Hello, here's a video about waiting for good value. Now it's important to understand what good value is, so I suggest if you haven't seen it, see my video on this topic on the YouTube channel. Why do I do these videos? Uncertainty creates anxiety. Understanding helps create confidence. The future will always be uncertain. Your financial decisions don't have to be. For over 30 years, I've seen the same questions come up over and over again. Will my money last? What if the market crashes? Am I making the right decisions? How do I stay calm when everyone else is panicking? And many more, all to do with uncertainty. My videos are here to help answer these questions for you. And today's question is, will I miss out if I wait? Here's a story of the average person. Imagine you've just retired. You've worked for 40 years or more. You've accumulated what you've got. You think it's enough. Now you're sitting there waiting. It's sitting there waiting for you to decide what to do. It's not a good time to invest. You decide to wait for good value. The first week isn't too bad. The markets go up and you get a bit nervous. Your neighbour tells you how much money they've made, and the news says shares hit another record. Every day you start asking yourself, am I making a terrible mistake? Every day you wait gets a little harder. That's retirement. Waiting isn't one decision. It's a decision you have to remake every morning. Waiting makes us doubt ourselves. It's not because we're unintelligent, it's because we're human. Every day we wait, someone else appears to be getting richer. That's emotionally exhausting. That is what people experience. Why do some investors get it wrong? Instead of asking, can I wait? People start asking, should I stop waiting? Waiting can feel like you're the only person not investing. Everyone else seems confident. Everyone else has an opinion. Everyone else knows the market is going higher. Waiting can feel incredibly lonely. How did I feel? In 1987, the share market was booming. I was married with a new child. I had no money. The hysteria in the media was remarkable. The market kept going up and up. There were new millionaires every day. The media was talking about it. I wasn't one of them. I genuinely believed I'd missed my chance. What sort of life could I give my new daughter? It was horrible. I felt very lonely. Then the market gave me one of my most valuable lessons. Black Monday. Markets crashed and crashed further. I realised I'd get my chance after all. Now I hadn't been waiting for good value, I simply had no money. I realised I would get another chance, and I learned something I've never forgotten. Booms do not last forever. Booms do not last forever? That's a big statement. Here's why I believe it. There's only so much money around, okay? And when markets start going up, it gets interest and money starts heading into it. People start investing and it goes up more. More money goes in and it goes up more. More money goes in and it goes up more. But notice this, there's no money left to go back into the market. And people start to get nervous and it starts to go down a bit. And people start to leave the market, take their money. And people start to leave the market even more. And it goes down even further. And it goes down even further. All the money's out. Now what happens? A little bit of money goes in. And more. And more and more. You get the idea? Anyway, back to my lesson. Looking back, I realised that experience shaped my entire investment philosophy. I've been using that lesson for years, even without realising where it came from. I cannot give you my conviction that it is okay to wait. You have to find your own. I can't remove the uncertainty, but I can help you understand it better, to start you on your journey to your own conviction, where you have the confidence to wait for good value. So, should you wait? The hardest part isn't understanding value. The hardest part is waiting. We all hate waiting. We worry we're missing out. That's perfectly normal. I don't know when markets will be good value again. Nobody knows. What I have seen is that eventually they always change. The questions become, can I afford to wait? Am I better off waiting? What's the scoreboard? I've found that people need these questions answered to give them the confidence enough to wait. Waiting makes you doubt yourself. Understanding gives you the confidence to keep waiting. Now, waiting has a cost, but buying at the wrong price has a cost too. The question is, which cost will hurt you more? If you know the answer to that, you can more confidently decide what to do. What if waiting isn't the risk? What if overpaying is the risk? Here's what history shows us. There were times you could have bought and overpaid and then got a negative annual return for 10 years, meaning losing money for 10 years. That is the price of not waiting. How do we find the confidence to wait? We look at the evidence. Here's some for you to consider. Let's take up the first of our three questions. Can you afford to wait? What if you wait a long time for good value? Will you run out of money? Well, let's look at the worst case. You never buy and get a 0% return. Here's a couple. They've got $300,000 in super each. Let's assume they get a 6.5% return. Their income is going to be about $70,000 a year up to their 90. Now let's assume they get a 0% return. How much income do you think they'll get now? Surprisingly, nearly $55,000. You can live on that. And the moral of the story, surprisingly, waiting is often less dangerous than people think. And as it turns out, we haven't had to wait all that long. How often is good value? Well, here's a graph that shows the value of the Australian share market using the PE ratio over the last 40 odd years. Now, this is the average here. That's what I consider average value. Anything below that is good value. Anything above that I consider bad value. Now 50% of the time is good value. When was it good value? Quite a number of times in recent history. Does waiting for good value pay off? That's a good question. In my experience, it has. Here are a couple of examples. In February 26, the market was bad value. Investor A was impatient and invested $10,000. He did okay. Ended up at $33,000. Investor B was patient. She waited for 3 years for good value and invested $10,000, but waited for good value. She did better. She got $41,000. So the moral of the story, Investor B waited patiently for 3 years. She also skipped the drama of the GFC. She didn't have to worry. She was able to buy good value and did better. It didn't hurt her to wait. Here's another example. February 19, the market was bad value. Investor A was impatient and invested $10,000. He did okay, but he had to suffer this. Investor B was patient. She waited for a year for good value and then invested $10,000, and she did better. The moral of the story: Investor B waited patiently for a year. She skipped the drama of COVID. She bought good value and did better. It didn't hurt her to wait. Want some actual results? Here's some results from COVID. Client bought in COVID and 13 months later got a 37% return. Another client, 6 years later, after buying in COVID, got a 96% return. Another opportunity came up in October 23 after a very nervous wait for newer clients who had less experience waiting. It had been nearly 4 years since COVID. I can understand their concern, but we did get another opportunity. Markets became good value again, and we bought in here and then reduced there. And over that time, got some really good returns there in green. Now, another point about this client: his patience had paid off in the long run. When he started, this shows the growth in his portfolio. When he started, about 18 months, a very close to nil return. That took a lot of patience, especially when you look at this here. This is the benchmark, like an average compared to his portfolio. If you had have invested in that, and he would have got a 5% return at that point there, whereas he got nothing. But later it paid, and he did all right in the long term. And then since October 23, late 24, when we got out of the market, it's basically gone sideways. So it didn't hurt us to get out either. Today's question was, will I miss out if I wait? And the answer is, maybe for a while, maybe it will even feel uncomfortable. But history suggests something remarkable. You usually get your chance. Historically, waiting for better value has often produced better outcomes. In the examples we've looked at, waiting produced better results. It seems to work in the long run. In the short term, it doesn't always feel that way. Waiting has a cost. Buying at the wrong price has a cost too. The question is, which cost will hurt you more? If you know the answer to that, you can more confidently decide what to do. Waiting isn't about trying to be clever. It's about being patient. Sometimes being patient is one of the safest decisions you can make. Now, the market the market feels like it wants to test your patience, but it really doesn't care how much you doubt yourself. Your best weapon against the market is confidence. Confidence isn't knowing what the markets will do. Confidence is knowing what you will do. Successful investors don't wait because they're brave. They wait because they understand what they're waiting for. The more you understand investing, the more confident you will be. I won't ask you to believe this because I said it. I encourage you to test it for yourself, then decide whether it makes sense to you. Would you like to know more? If so, check my website or give me a call, or see my YouTube channel for more videos. Here's a general advice warning. This is a simple Gavanised version. The presentation is for educational purposes only. The information is reasonably accurate. Some poetic license has been taken to a small degree for explanation purposes, just to make it easier to understand. And very importantly, get advice from an expert before doing anything. The next one is the official version. Now, I'm not going to read this out to you. If you want to read it, you can pause it here, but I'm going to carry on. And remember, uncertainty creates anxiety. Understanding creates confidence. Thank you. Have a good day.